Welcome to Escape the Noise, a podcast about hiking, mental health, and everything in between. I'm your host, Joe Vogel. We're coming to you from the Silicon Slopes studio in downtown Provo, Utah. Our guest this week, Jensen, an ultra runner who overcame colorectal cancer in 2021 and finished a 100-mile marathon just a year later. Aaron grew up camping and hiking in the Uinta Mountains, but says he lost a bit of himself in his 20s and early 30s. He wasn't eating well or exercising and didn't feel healthy. He eventually turned back to hiking and trail running, but then got hit with the gut-wrenching revelation that he had cancer. Listen as he explains how that moment changed his life and what his journey has been like since. I'm gonna be looking for you out there because I do Rock Canyon a lot too.
Do you?
That's like my go-to hike, just because it's so close.
It's so close,
and I just love it. You know,
it's pretty.
It's beautiful, just like following
Yep.
up the river and crossing the 5 bridges, and you know,
or you can just go to the campground. You can go up to the summit. There's all kinds of options.
Yeah,
you can even cut up behind and go up Y Mountain, Slide Canyon.
Yep.
So there's just so many options,
and it's so unique too. You know, all the rock formations and everything.
Yep. Yeah, and like bighorn sheep are up there.
Yeah.
So it's just, and I love the water, especially springtime, and the fall colors are unreal up there.
Have you been up there recently?
I was up there 2 weeks ago.
Were you?
Yeah, that's the last time I've been up there.
I was up there just this past weekend, and you know, the trailhead is being worked on right now, right? So you have to actually go over to Rock Canyon Park and kind of take a alternate route. Just to get to the kind of base, right?
I actually enjoy the new route.
I do too. Yeah, it was kind of fun. But yeah, I was going to ask you just about what you think about that project. Have you looked into it at all? Like what they're going to do with the pipes and
I haven't seen what they're doing with the pipes. No, I just know they're redoing the parking lot, and I've heard they're redoing the bathrooms as well. Yeah. And they're supposed to be nicer bathrooms and things. So.
Yeah, I think they're improving everything down there at the trailhead just because it was getting really popular. And then I think there's a big water project, right?
Yeah, because they tore up parts of the road, and I know they put pipe down. So I guess they're probably rerouting more of the water.
Yeah.
So
I was trying to remember last year, because last year, of course, we had so much snow.
Yeah.
So when you hiked up Rock Canyon last year, like the water was just gushing down, right? And I can't remember when that started. Do you remember? Like what month?
Probably April-ish.
Is it?
I would say.
Okay.
Probably
because it was completely dry.
May,
you know, it was
May.
dry when I went up. Sure, when you went up.
Yeah, it's still dry now, of course. And then they got that big old avalanche blocking.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of snow still up there.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I'm with you. It's kind of a go-to favorite, you know, that and then of course if you go all the way up to Kive Peak, you get the amazing views and everything.
And it's funny how popular of a hike it is and how many times I've had that summit to myself. Yeah,
that's the thing, you know. I always feel like the first part of the hike, there's tons of people because there's all the rock climbers and just people that go up to that, like, you know, but I feel like even when you hit the pines, like you start to see a lot less people. And then by the time you get past like the 5th bridge, like I sometimes see nobody after that, maybe like 1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
So it still feels special in that way, you know, that's not too, because like when you hike Timpanogos, for example, especially on the weekends, it's just insane, right? It's just, there's a lot of people.
Yeah. So, I like to do temp on the weekdays just for that reason.
Exactly. Well, what other hikes do you like to do in this area?
So I like to do Santaquin Peak, which is down in Payson Canyon.
Yeah.
And on Loafer Mountain. That one's special to me because that's actually the first peak I ever did. And it was the scout leader from when I was in the youth. He took us up there twice.
Oh, nice.
And so I didn't ever go back until I was 36. So the last time I went when I was 16 with him, and then it took me till I was 36 to go back. And so it's just always brings special feelings to me.
Yeah, it's very nostalgic.
Yep, when I go up, especially when I went up at 36 for the first time again. It was crazy how much of it I remembered.
Yeah.
Like when I just saw stuff, I'm like, I remember all of this stuff from 20 years ago. And so that one's a special peak to me. And they have a flagpole up the top of that one, flagpole in a mailbox. And I don't every year hang the flag because somebody will beat me to it. But if I get up there and there's no flag hung, I'll hang the flag. So I've hung it about 4 or 5 times.
And I've never done that. So that's in Payson
Canyon, yeah. The trailhead's right below the Payson Lakes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's the Loafer Mountain trailhead.
Okay.
And it takes you up to Santaquin Peak. You can do also Loafer, which is it's like a twin peak. But Santaquin Peak's the one that overlooks the valley.
And maybe you can, this is a question I've had since I just moved back to Utah this past summer. Grew up in Provo, but I've been on the East Coast for about 15 years. So this is my parents live in Mapleton, right? And so there's this debate I've been having with them whether that mountain over there is called Maple Mountain or Spanish Fork Peak.
So here's how I put it. Like, I think you can call it Maple Mountain, but the peak is called Spanish Fork Peak.
Okay.
So kind of like Loafer Mountain and Santaquin Peak.
Gotcha.
Because it's called Santaquin Peak, but the mountain's called Loafer Mountain. Part
of why we were trying to figure this out is we did TIMP badges last year. I don't know if you heard about this. We're handing out the TIMP badges for people that summit. And this year we're thinking about doing 9 other peaks, so 10 peaks total along the Wasatch Front, which we're super excited about. But with that one in particular, we kept going back and forth. Like, are we going to call it on the badge? Are we going to call it Maple Mountain, or are we going to call it Spanish Fork Peak?
Yeah, I know it's like a hot topic with some people.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Yeah, it's kind of like a territorial thing.
Yeah, but I've heard of the territorial thing about it. That's how I approach it. Is like I'm doing Spanish Fork Peak on Maple Mountain. That's how I always say it.
Makes sense.
And like
like Kive Peak is, Rock Canyon, right?
Yep.
So
yeah, because I think the peaks can have different names and the mountain can have a different name.
We can all get along, see?
Yeah. So that's how I look at it, because the peak is called Spanish Fork Peak.
And have you hiked that one?
Yes, I love that one too.
Okay.
That one's a really good steep one, and there's always like moose.
Yeah.
It's a hot spot for moose.
I haven't done that one in a while, but I have done it before.
Yeah.
And I remember it feeling very long because I was, at that time.
Yeah, it's like 5.5 miles one way.
Yeah.
And it's steeper than Temp.
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you gain more elevation on that one than you do at Temp.
Yeah, that would be interesting to look up. But it felt that way.
It's definitely steeper.
Yeah. Maybe the Aspen. I mean, when you hike Timpanogos, do you do the Aspen Grove side or the Timpanuki side?
I like to do the Timpanuki side. That one's more runnable.
Yeah.
It's not as steep as Aspen Grove, but
lots of switchbacks up.
Yeah.
Aspen Grove, but you do get all the waterfalls.
I do like the waterfalls.
Lake and
what's fun is just doing there's a 20-ish mile loop. You start at Timpanuki, go up and summit, and then go down Aspen Grove.
And
then take the Lame Horse Trail, and then I think it's called Snow Gauging Trail back down to Timpanuki.
Okay.
And then you can just see both sides.
There you go. get the best of both worlds, right?
It's like, I think it's 20 or 25 miles. I can't remember. I haven't done the loop for a few years.
Any other hikes that you love or recommend?
Well, I like Payson Canyon is pretty not well known.
Yeah.
I like to run a lot of that stuff. There's all kinds of trails right through the middle of it. And so that's the kind
of... Have you done Nebo?
I've done Nebo.
Have you?
Yep.
So that's the tallest mountain in the Wasatch Front.
Yeah. I like that one too. It's just quite the drive.
Yeah.
For what it is. And so a lot of times I'll just pick something else because it's
closer.
Yeah. Because I can honestly, from Spanish Fork, I can get to Temp quicker. I can get to Salt Lake quicker than I can get to the Nebo Trailhead.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, though the further south you go, I feel like the less crowded it gets, right?
Yep.
So that's,
for sure.
That's something nice about it.
But.
I would
say, I think anything in the Rock Canyon area, like if you get up to the road and start, or if you go up to like the Cascade Saddle, or if you go up Slide Canyon, Slate Canyon, those are all super good trails and super fun. And they're so close. And so that they're like my go-tos.
Yeah.
That's where I do most of my training for ultra running.
When I was growing up in Provo, I lived just beneath Slate Canyon.
Oh, nice.
So that was kind of like what you were talking about. Like when I'd go back and do those, look at those trails, it was like, oh yeah, I remember this from forever ago, right?
Yeah.
I tried to hike it last year, but I think I hiked it at the wrong time because there was so much snow last year, and like there were rivers that were
almost uncrossable.
Unless you were like, I was probably
if you wanted to get soaking wet.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah, they dry out. Those canyons do dry out and stuff.
And
then I do love the Uintas.
The Uintas are great.
Yep. So as soon as they melt out, I'll do some trail running up there too.
Have you done Kings Peak?
I have.
Okay. How was that?
I like that one. I backpacked that one actually. I backpacked up to Dollar Lake and then summited the next day.
Nice.
But I do have some big mountain routes mapped out that I'm going to plan on doing this summer.
Well, if we have those badges, it sounds like you might get them all, you know?
Oh, well, if I know which ones they are, I'll try to hit them all.
Have you done Lone Peak?
I've never done Lone Peak.
Okay, well, that's on it.
Okay. I've been wanting to do Lone Peak, and I have some friends that want to take me up there. Because I've done Box Elder, I've done Provo Peak, and
one of our last guests was really hyping Lone Peak.
I've heard really good things about it.
It's hard. You know, it's different, you
know,
but he said it's one of his favorites.
Yeah.
So I've never done it either. So.
Yeah, I plan on trying to hit that one this year too.
Okay. Yeah, me too.
Because I've hit him probably 50 or 60 times throughout my life.
Yeah.
Or since, the last 9 years.
Yeah.
Same with Santaquin Peak. I've hit Provo Peak a handful of times. I've hit Spanish Fork Peak. I've probably done that one 20 or 30 times.
I mean, it's just incredible to have that many different amazing hikes within 30 minutes, right?
Yep.
It's kind of incredible. Let's go back to just really quick. I want to kind of revisit the mental health part of this.
Okay.
So again, when you're thinking about like maybe even like other people listening to this, right, and hearing your story, probably being inspired by your story, what would you tell them? Just in terms of maybe recommending hiking as something that can help even get you through really difficult times of your life.
I mean, I hope my story is inspiring and helps people understand that they can do the hard things. I would definitely recommend hiking because there's something just peaceful about it. And if you don't want to go alone, I understand that because the woods are different for people. Like, you do get to a comfort level like I do. Like, nothing spooks me out there anymore. Like,
did it ever?
At first, when you go out on your own and stuff in the dark and stuff, it's kind of spooky. But like, it doesn't bother me at all anymore.
Yeah, you do get used to it.
Yeah, you get so used to it. And so I understand why people don't want to go alone.
Yeah.
I don't worry about the animals out there. I ran into bears and that kind of stuff. And
have you?
Yeah, and they just run from you. So,
where have you seen bears?
I've seen them up Spanish Fork Peak. I've seen them on the Rock Canyon area.
Really?
Yeah. I've seen them in the American Fork Canyon.
Wow.
And so, they just run from you.
I think that's usually the case, right?
We don't have grizzlies here, so I don't worry about it. So if we had grizzlies, I'd be packing bear spray. But
there's a lot of rattlesnakes up Rock Canyon too.
Yeah. I hardly ever run into rattlesnakes.
Really?
Yeah.
I saw a lot last year.
Yeah. And I think it's because I go after work, like 2:00 in the afternoon. It's too hot for them.
Yeah.
And so
you go a little bit later than that.
Yeah. And then you'll see them. And I've ran into them a couple times, like if I've come off later off the peak, then when I'm hitting down in the canyon, I all of a sudden run it because you're running. All of a sudden there's a rattling sound.
Yeah.
And I recognize it immediately. And then you always stop.
Yeah.
Like, where's that at? Because you don't want to like
step on it.
Yeah. Or just step on it. So,
there's a couple times I've seen them just right out on the trail.
Yeah.
In those rocky, those really rocky parts. And then they just kind of slither up.
Yeah.
And I used to, that was one of the things where I used to be like terrified. And now I'm like kind of hoping I see.
Yeah. I don't get terrified
because it's just,
either.
you just keep your distance, right? Like once you see it or hear it.
It's a little more nerve wracking when you're running and you hear it.
Yeah.
But you don't spot it yet.
You have to react quick.
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why I don't use like AirPods.
Yep, I don't either.
I just want to be aware of what's going on around me. Because if you're listening to music, you might not.
No, and that's the same with like animals too. Like I want to hear the animal charging me before it hits me.
Yeah, yeah. But, and I think it's just part of the experience, you know. I mean, I love running to music, but like I feel like when you're in the mountains, it's nice to just like hear the birds and just hear what.
For me, it's hearing nature.
Yeah,
it's what I go out there for. I don't want to hear like all the music and stuff. So, and I don't care if people wear it. It doesn't matter to me if they're listening to music.
Yeah. But there is an awareness thing that's important. I think, you know, for
especially for like rattlesnakes.
Yeah,
I think any kind of animal. Like sometimes you can't hear them rustling in the.
Well, we probably never know when cougars are looking at us. You know,
I'm sure I've passed them many times.
Yeah,
and there's been times too I've like passed a moose and didn't realize it until like just out of the corner of my eye as I was passing it. I'm like, that's a moose, and I'd look over and I'm like, it was 10 feet away. It was just standing there watching me, and I was just running by. So,
and you know, our secondary logo at Timpanogos Hiking is the goat, right? I'm sure you've seen the goats up in.
I've actually been charged by one of them.
Have you?
Yeah, that's probably the only wildlife encounter I've ever had that was scary. Was actually a goat.
Huh. Yeah, they can.
Yeah.
Although I've been really close to them, and they've always been pretty friendly.
Yeah, we were doing it early. It was an earlier June summit on one of the years we didn't have a lot of snow, and we had summited, and it was just me and my friend. And we were coming down, and it was a single goat. And we just stopped and took pictures of him. And then we actually kind of went around him off the trail because he was standing in the middle of the trail. And I think once we passed him, we started running to go down the trail. I think it must have triggered something because I just like thought, I'm going to look behind me. And I looked behind me, and he was running at us. And so I told my buddies, like, oh, dude, he's chasing us. And so we both stopped and like ran up the hill off the trail. And he got below us and was just like bucking his feet back and like rearing his head. And we were just like, dude, we're just fine. Like, leave us alone. So we just kind of went all the way around him and stuff. And he was just kind of having an attitude that day.
Funny.
But
yeah, I mean, you probably heard last year there's some incidents with goats and dogs, right?
Yeah.
And probably, you know, again, what you said, which is they're going to, if they feel threatened, right? So if a dog is charging them off the leash or whatever, that's going to be a problem.
Yeah.
We got detoured there a little bit with all the animals, but like you were talking about, you know, when you're out there hiking by yourself, that it's very peaceful, that you don't really feel afraid or anything like that.
Yeah, it's become, like I tell people, I'm as comfortable out in the mountains as I am at home. And so it's another place to go and get away from everything. Like I can totally drop everything I've had at work or what might be going on in my life or what's bothering me. I can get on the mountains and just totally forget it all. And I can't do that at home all the time because you still got stuff you got to deal with and things at home. And like you get up in the mountains and your cell phone is no longer active and all that kind of stuff.
Great. It's a great feeling, right?
Yeah. And you just can get away and you can hear the water running, you hear the birds, you hear everything going on, the wind whistling through the trees and stuff like that. It's peaceful. And like the smells. I love the smells of
the river, the pines, all of it.
Especially spring and all that kind of stuff. And winter's like really quiet. I love to hike in the winter too because everything's just quiet.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's a unique experience.
Yeah.
I mean, it already is that way in the winter in general, like especially if it just snowed.
Yeah.
It just feels very quiet. But then you go up into the mountains and experience it. It's like a whole other.
Yep, it's super quiet. Yeah. That's what's beautiful about having 4 seasons in Utah.
Yeah.
Is
you get to experience it completely different ways.
The trails are different all 4 seasons.
Yeah.
And so.
Yeah, that is really nice. You go up there in the fall and it's
the colors
exploding with colors. You go in the winter and you got that serene, quiet.
Yeah.
And then, right now, I mean, I think all of us are just like ready to go, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like,
It's always the trouble. It's always the part, right? When the winters went ending and it's starting to warm up, because then you start getting the muddy, slushy,
exactly.
and it gets really hard. And so, I stay like on the lower dirt trails, like shoreline trails and the stuff that's melted off, because I don't like slushing through the mud and all that stuff. But
well, Aaron, it's been awesome having you on the show.
I appreciate being here. So.
It's great to hear your story. I think it would resonate with a lot of people. So I appreciate you sharing it with us and, talking about difficult things. And like I said, I think a lot of people will be inspired just hearing what you went through and like how you've come out of it. So thank you.
I appreciate it. And I hope people can understand it, especially people, if they're looking for somebody that with the colostomy that can do stuff.
Yeah.
I had a hard time finding information and it was frustrating.
No, I think that itself will be super valuable.
And I just want people to know you can do whatever you want. So awesome. I go to the gym too and lift, and you can lift heavy with them too. Like they tell you can't lift heavy with them, you can lift heavy with them. Yeah. So you just got to be more careful. But
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Aaron.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Aaron. Thanks again to Aaron for joining us. You can follow him at Ragnar23 on Instagram. Escape the Noise is produced by Timpanogos Hiking Co. I'm your host, Joe Vogel. A big thank you to Kai Bradford for his assistance with scheduling and production, to the Wildfires for our intro music, and to Silicon Slopes and Weston Tanner for hosting us and helping us make it all happen. Thanks again for listening. We'll see you again next episode.